Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran. How are we all doing today? This is our last episode of July, which is actually just insane to think about. And it's my first episode where I'm halfway to 50. So, thank you all for the birthday wishes and everything. And yeah, here's to another year. Here's to another 25 years till I'm 50. But anyways, enough about that. If the podcast is still going in that many years, then we'll cross that bridge once we get to it. Anyways, I just wanted to do a quick little plug of, as some of you guys may have seen on our social media, we have a little concert coming here to Miramichi on August 24th, in less than a month now. It is a musical showcase with Leandra Gold, who you guys may know as Natalia Borges. She was on the podcast before, and we also did our Concert Time Collective collaboration, the music and storytelling series. So with her and her brother Juan Sin Cabeza, very, very excited to have them both here. We're presenting a little thing called Music from Elsewhere. And it's going to be August 24th at New Maritime Beer Company. Tickets are $15. Show starts at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets by texting or calling 1-506-624-3315, although we recommend you book ahead of time just so we can have a rough number and just to make sure you get them in time. But come on out, guys. Support some great talent, and super excited to be hosting those guys. Something new. We haven't tried it before, so I'm really, really excited to see how it goes. So anyways, guys, moving on to the show today, because you guys aren't here to listen to me ramble. I mean, if you stick around for the last half hour, then you will be. But anyways, we're here because we got an amazing guest today. My guest today is a very, very talented man. He's actor, improviser. He's an improviser at heart and a director at heart, but he's also done some acting, voice acting, for some amazing shows and stuff and movies. Honored to have him here today. Of course, he ran the Improv Comedy Workshop for the Terrified that was at O'Donoghue's earlier this month. Great time, and super honored to have him on here today. We talk a lot about, the improv in general. Among other things, we may accidentally workshop an idea for something that we have that we'd like to do together. Anyways, that's, just listen to the episode. You'll find out more about that. And then later in the show, I want to review a little movie called Deadpool Wolverine that I've been super, super excited for. Finally came out. Super excited to see it. Or not see it, to review it. I've already seen it. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's find out. Let's talk about it later. And then also I want to break down, we just had some recent announcements from San Diego Comic-Con. Let's talk about that as well too. Lots of stuff to talk about. But anyways, guys, without further ado, just how about you sit back, relax. If you're driving, maybe pull over or keep driving, whichever you prefer. Just make sure you watch your traffic. Anyways, just enjoy today's podcast, guys. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran, and today I am joined by the multi-talented improviser, actor, writer, you name it, he does it. Mr. Ray James, and heavy on the Mr. It even says on his Zoom name as well, Ray James, and then in brackets, Mr. So, Ray, thank you so much for coming on today.
It is my pleasure, Franky. I've been waiting for this for a little while. You do so much good work around Miramichi with theater and entertainment. Great honor. Great honor.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And speaking of doing amazing things on the river, I mean, let's not forget about what you're doing. We, of course, I think like 3 weeks ago or something like that, we had Elise Chase Sinclair on, who was, of course, part of your improv Comedy Workshop at O'Donoghue's, which was hilarious. Had a great time at that. And you guys are going to be doing it again in September 17th, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. So, first off, I mean, kind of just going back a little bit. I mean, you've done so much stuff in the industry, like literally, like we could be here for hours just listing off some of the stuff that you've done. But so, what have you been up to these days? Of course, you're now semi-retired, as you had
Mhm.
mentioned to me. What have you been up to aside from the improv comedy that we'll touch on later?
Well, I'm working on some books actually, not writing them, but doing some audio work on some books that I really enjoy. And what I want to do is kind of get a summarization in 15 minutes of some books that really have meant a lot to me. There's one in particular called The Hidden Life of Trees that I'm working on. And it's the story of how trees love forests, how they share things, they're connected in their root systems. And these are not individual trees, they're connected with one another. And I've always been interested in that. I mean, improv is like that for me because on improv, you're not up on thinking about yourself. You're always helping your partner, making your partner look good. So that connectedness is kind of a bit of a theme for me. And I'd like to do more kind of YouTube videos exploring that more in other kind of life forms and in the world, how important it is to be connected to one another.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's a great one of the best parts about improv. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I firmly stand by it. It's so good for like thinking on your feet. Like that's really because that's really what it is. It's like you are basically going off of a script that is just being thrown at you. It's like you got to
Yeah,
just go with it kind of thing. And it's a
yeah,
matter of how you keep it it's a challenge. It certainly is a challenge. And I mean, like you're a pro at it by now. But it's a challenge because you got to keep the scene going somehow. How difficult does it get for you? Like if it gets to a point where you're trying to keep a scene going and you're like, oh crap, I'm stuck and my teammates aren't helping me. Like, what do you do in those types of situations?
that's a great question, Frankie. What happens in improv is that we try not to think. Thinking kind of separates you from the problem or whatever the challenge is. We do a game called Yes and. All it is whatever your partner says, you say yes to and you add. So what is being involved is your imagination rather than your thinking. Your thinking takes a pause in order to get a grip and then come up. It's like if there's your body suddenly feels a fire, it takes off. You don't think about it. It's the same thing in improv. If you're really listening and just adding, you go quickly and it takes weird turns. But that's what makes a scene wonderful, is that you take this weird turn and you have to justify it. So it's not predictable for the people on stage and for the people watching it. It's very much imagination and even intuition.
It's really like there's so many different angles to it. Like there's so
Yeah,
many. I mean, for some people, it is kind of nerve wracking because it's you're thinking on the spot and stuff like that.
yeah,
And for some people, we all may have our flaws and stuff like that when it comes to like, oh, I'm like, okay, I can act and I can dance, but I can't sing, or I can sing and
yeah.
dance, but I can't act. But really, I think in a way, almost everybody can improvise in some way. Is that
Absolutely.
accurate or?
Absolutely. That's what we're doing right now is improvising, responding with what we feel. Nothing is scripted in this conversation. And the other thing is, you're trying to build something with your partner. You're trying to make your partner look good. Like people are very self conscious, can be. You're on stage, people are watching you, and you can really freeze up thinking, well, what am I going to say that's really brilliant here? But if you're throwing stuff to your partner so your partner looks good, it takes all the pressure off of you. And you can really, again, that connection, you're making your partner look good. It's very easy to make your partner look good. It's really hard if you're trying to be a genius, you know? So it takes the pressure off. And that's why these improv scenes, they go quickly. If you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, there's not a pause between Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery. They're just into each other's. They're into each other's head, and that's why the scenes go so well.
No, exactly, exactly. Kind of going back, you know, back in time a little bit. How'd you first get into doing improv? Is it something that you ever imagined that you'd be still doing all these years later?
No, no idea at all. I had a business in Montreal in art sales. Went down to New York City to get some new stock for my company. And down in the village, the village in New York City is the heartland of jazz, music, artistic flourishes in that little part of Manhattan. So I'm down in a bar there, and at the back of the bar, there's two people doing improv. They get suggestions and they do it. I was like thunderstruck that these people are there with no script and doing wonderful things with one another with improv. So it just was this seed. So when I got a chance to move off of my business, get through with that, I went down to New York City and studied improv. Really, that because that's the one thing I wanted to do. Came back to Toronto, joined Theater Sports, which is a improv organization there, and really learned and met up with people. We formed a team called Who's Afraid of Virginia Kaminsky, and it was just wonderful stuff that I did there. And those are still my best friends, are people out of improv, and it's just been this wonderful connection with me, meeting people here in Miramichi that I can do this sort of thing with. And Miramichi is just chock full of amazing actors.
Yeah, we got the best people here, like we really do, and some people might not think it, and try to and like there's not much of it here. It's like, well, no, we got lots of people here. It's just a matter of the right opportunities. And the improv thing, we never really saw much of that here, at least that I can remember anyway. What was it that made it so important to want to bring this improv comedy workshop to the Miramichi? Like, what was it that really made you think like this Miramichi needs this, you know?
Well, I was really kind of selfish. I had moved here with my wife about a year and a half ago because of some family needs she had down here. And I know nobody here at all. So I brought what I loved, the improv, put the word out, and then got these great people to come and do an 8-week workshop with me, learn it, do the show, and then meet you and meet so many other people who are doing stuff on stage. Jimmy McKinley for one, who really just excite me with all the partnerships I can have here. So it was kind of selfish, really. I didn't know what the reception would be, but it's been great. It's just been fantastic.
Yes, definitely. Was there ever any like skepticism? You're like, is this the right city for that? Are people going to want to sign up for it? And then you were, as you said, like, wow, like just blown away by the amount of positive reviews and stuff. So was there a bit of trepidation going into it? Like, are
It
people going to
was.
sign up?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, Frankie. I sort of was used to doing this in larger cities like Toronto or Denver, even Vancouver. So I didn't know if there would be a response to it. I know it's in the high school here; people do it there. So I wasn't sure. So it was a bit of a throw of the dice for sure. But man, it's been really redeeming for me to have made these connections now. And like you mentioned, we'll be doing it again starting in September, and the show will be actually in November. It takes 8 weeks after we do our rehearsals to do it. And I don't know where we're going to do it next. We may be back at O'Donoghue's or maybe some other larger venue. We don't know.
Kind of play it by ear maybe, but no, it's also though. And I was kind of curious, like so when you uh 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 found out that it was sold out, like the show was sold out, like
Yeah,
which that was fantastic. I knew
yeah,
immediately. Elise said, "Did you get your tickets?" I said, no. I said, I'll probably wait as we get closer. And she's like, well, they're selling out. I'm like, oh geez, okay, like I better get them right now. So I literally bought my tickets off Elise during that
yeah.
conversation. So what
Yes.
was your reaction to that too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was very like I mentioned, I didn't know if I'd find the people. Then I didn't know if we'd have an audience. We were just we had to turn people away for that show. So we're going to try to have a little larger venue next time so more people can enjoy it. But it has been really, like I mentioned, redeeming to find out all these people coming out of the woodwork to enjoy this thing, and it was a great show. It was just, and I'll tell you something, Frankie. We had 8 weeks of learning basics and whatnot on that. I have never seen those guys perform at the high level that they performed at that show. There's something about a show, there's something about an audience that just elevated them like I had never seen them just flying like they were in that show. Amazing. Just amazing.
And just especially compared to where they started,
Yes.
even maybe they weren't sure, like, how is this going to pan out? Am I going to be good enough? Is Ray going to say, hey, this isn't working out? And then
Yeah.
they stuck it through, and here we are. And it's just absolutely fantastic to think about. But you've also done some theater as well too, correct?
Yes, I've done theater. I've done work at community theater back in Toronto, and with actually it was a dramatic piece I did. And frankly, I love comedy. There's something that, again, I come back to a connection. I really feel connection with people when they're laughing, and you can't fake a laugh. And when people are laughing, you know that you've touched them in some way. Um, and Yeah, so I've done that in Toronto with some dramatic work, but really, I prefer comedy for sure.
Definitely. Do you prefer the type of shows? Because some people have it like it both ways. The shows that are very interactive, like improv, do you prefer those ones where they kind of break the fourth wall and they kind of get the audience involved, or do you kind of prefer? Because I see some people, they go kind of back and forth on that. They like the interactive ones, but then they also prefer ones where you just watch it and to avoid breaking the immersion kind of thing. Or like, how do you see that? Like, which
No,
one is your favorite?
it really is. You've hit it on the nose there. Interactive. I love interactive theater. It's much more immediate. Much more sharing. I find it kind of passive to not have that interactive. And I do a lot of murder mysteries, or I have done a lot of murder mysteries, which is very interactive with actors amongst the audience, interacting with them. You have about 5, 6 actors and the audience can really get involved, asking questions. So I love breaking the fourth wall. Absolutely, absolutely. And what's really interesting, there's a certain fear factor in not breaking the fourth wall. When you can break it, I mean, the reason my workshop is called Improv Comedy for the Terrified, and there's a reason for that. Is there's such a fear of connecting on that level that's people to go off script and be in the moment with another person is kind of frightening, for a lot of people. So if we're doing an improv show or even in life, being off script and really communicating with people, that's what a lot of my improvisers get out of that workshop. They actually start to really be present with other people as well.
You definitely see a change. It was funny when I saw the improv comedy for the terrified. I thought it was like a Halloween thing. That's what I thought. I legit thought it was like some sort of Halloween. I don't know, like something going on Halloween. It's like, okay, that's cool. Because then even on the poster, it had what, like someone screaming or something like that,
Yeah,
wasn't
women screaming. Yeah,
it? So I was like,
yeah,
oh, some cool little improv Halloween show, and then find out, oh, that's why it's called for the terrified. Very clever on that end too with the marketing.
yeah. Maybe we
And
should do our next show on Halloween. You know?
yes, oh my God, actually, yeah, you know what? That'd be great. How about the haunted house? Let's do a haunted house at
Oh
O'Donohue's or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah,
there's all these stories about O'Donohue's being haunted too. Like there's some stories about that. So I don't know, maybe
I
we
thought I
can.
heard something once about that, but I'm not really up on that. you know?
Yeah, some of them, I mean, people can believe what they want to believe. People listen to this, go, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Like, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all by any means.
Yeah.
If I
Well,
have those,
I've actually encountered a ghost.
did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about
Montreal.
it. Tell me about it.
Well, it was a strange thing. At night, I'm laying in bed. I was woken up by a creaking sound. It was loud enough that it woke me up. And I'm in Montreal, so maybe there's an intruder. I have no idea. So I got up, or no, I didn't get up. I looked around. There's nobody there. So went back to bed. It starts creaking again. So that time I turn the lights on and I'm moving things to see what could make that creaking sound. The table, the chairs, the rocking chair, this old rocking chair. I made that, and sure enough, there's a creaking sound. Okay. Well, if that was the only story, there'd be no credibility to it. However, the next morning I go down and I have a neighbor who lives underneath me. And all I said to him, you'll never believe what happened last night. Oh, he says, you met George the ghost. He was totally familiar with his ghost inhabiting that building. So there you go. And since then, I've talked to other people, credible people who've had these experiences. So yeah, uh, we could do a ghost story. That's for
Oh,
sure.
let's do
Yeah,
it. Let's make it happen.
yeah.
Let's do it in that exact location. Where was it? An apartment?
Oh, you're absolutely right. We could do a ghost story in O'Donoghue's.
That's a great.
That's amazing.
You guys are hearing this live. We are literally coming up with this idea right on the
Yeah,
spot. This is perfect.
yeah. And it'll be a murder mystery. Who killed? And we'll have the ghost. The ghost, the audience can see the ghost, the actors cannot. So that there'll be interrogations and trying to find out who killed this ghost. And one of the actors will be the culpable being. And who we will then, well, I won't give the plot away, but that would be perfect for O'Donoghue's.
That's great,
I haven't
actually.
talked to them yet. I'll see what Jamie thinks of it, but that would be too cool.
Jamie, if you're listening to this, if you happen to be listening to this, we will do whatever we can to make this
Yeah,
a reality. Like, guys, literally, you are literally hearing this live. Like, we literally
mm,
just came up with this right on the spot. This
that's
was like a
perfect.
workshop. My God, this is a great idea, but let's make sure, let's copyright this too. So make anybody listening to this who tries to steal the idea, we'll make sure that we're on top of that with the our own legal team as well too.
Yeah. Frankie, you and I are going to write this. You and I are going to write this murder mystery. You
Yes,
know,
absolutely. I've written
would
murder
that be
mysteries
cool?
too. I've written murder mysteries as
Oh,
well.
have you?
Yeah, I put one on a couple years ago actually, and I have a few more that I'd like to do eventually. I'm always like that with writing. I'll write stuff and then put it aside. And I'm like, oh yeah, one of these days I'll get to it. So I have some that I'd love to do eventually, but this could be one as well too. Let's not forget this idea though, because I mean, like this
No,
is
no, not
a
not
great
a
idea.
chance. We need you to act. You need to be one of the people in the show, Frankie.
Oh, see, oh my gosh, look at that. You got me.
Yeah,
The wheels are spinning now, man. This is awesome.
yeah, yeah.
What's crazy? Well, like some people will say to me, "Oh, so, you're not acting anymore?" Because, once I started writing and directing and stuff, they're like, "Oh, you don't act anymore." I'm like, "No, no, I still act." Like it's just because you do one or the other, people think that, "Oh, you're all done with that." And then I start acting again. They're like, "Oh, you're not directing anymore." I'm like, "No, no, I'm still doing that."
Uh,
Uh do you have a preference nowadays? Because one thing that I talk to people a lot about who do so much stuff, whether they're like a multi-talented musician, actor, whatever, they're always like, but when I die, this is what I want to be known as. I want to be
yeah.
known as a musician. Like, do you want to be known as an improviser, actor, voice actor, writer? How do you see that?
None of those. I like directing. I really love directing. I love squeezing the juice out of any story to get the maximum out of it. That's a finished product for me. That's a refined and finished product. Like we fly by the seat of our pants in a murder mystery, or we fly by the seat of our pants in an improv show. But when you have a script and you work on it, the timing and everything, that's a real pleasure for me to get one of those done. I love just taking the words in the page and just really maximizing the impact of that for an audience. Yeah.
No, and that's how I feel too. Honestly, like writing and directing. I mean, I've talked to people about this before too. You're like, it's so hard to choose what you prefer because you love all of them, but then at the end of the day you kind of look at like, okay, what makes you the most happy, what makes you the most, I mean, like
Yeah.
really they all make me happy. I mean, like that's just right there, it's such a hard thing to choose right there. But there is something about directing and writing too that when you see the finished product,
Yes.
it feels that much better. But acting too, though, because I mean, you work so hard for it, and then by the end, it's like I can't believe that actually went exactly how I wanted it. So yeah, it's there's good points for both of them, and I mean, no matter what you do, it's going to be hard to choose one of them as well. Do you prefer because as I said, you've done so much like entertainment, just like all over the place, like voice acting, directing, writing, for theater and acting in shows, like which do you prefer, film, TV, theater? Which do you do, or like voice acting? What's your preference?
Live theater for me. Again, that connection. I've done, TV work and whatnot. And frankly, I don't have a good connection with the camera. I can't read the camera in terms of whether it's, but when I have an audience, I can read what's going on and adapt to it. But with the straight camera work, it's sort of kind of unresponsive would be the word I feel with the camera. So yeah, live theater's got to be live theater for me.
No,
Absolutely.
definitely. And you get the instant reaction too. Like if you film a
Yeah.
sitcom, you don't hear the audience reactions till months
Right.
later. But with theater, you hear them instantly. I mean, it might take maybe a month or so because you're doing the rehearsals and stuff like that. But once you hear
Yeah.
them, it's like instantaneous. So
Yeah.
that right there, like there's so many advantages to all of them.
And I
And
think that's why my guys at the improv show really excelled so much because they got the audience in front of them. They connected with the audience, and they just were much better than anything we'd done all through those 8 weeks of working on the games.
no, and you feel proud of them too, because also
Absolutely.
it's just seeing how far they've come, and then like
Yeah.
you feel proud yourself because like you're like, without this they wouldn't have found the opportunity to do this, and like so many people say I've always wanted to do this, but there was never any opportunity, or I couldn't afford
Yeah.
it, or anything like that, and you gave people the opportunity of a lifetime, really. And kind of just going through your work here, I'm so you did a guest spot on Wise Guy, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That was
A while ago. It's a
some while
while ago.
ago. Yes, how long ago
Yeah.
was that you did Wise Guy?
Geez, that was the 80s. That was 50 years ago.
Did you work with did you happen to do a thing with the actor Jonathan Banks? Did you happen to work with him?
Actually, I did. Yeah, I had a
Ah,
scene. Very crazy. Very crazy. I mean, a good scene. I was a cop, and I was arresting one of the main character there, and Jonathan Banks. It really had a distinctive way about him. Even then, a real street smart guy. Really street smart guy. You know, and of course
he's
he's running part with that show. So you did some research on me, Frankie.
I
You,
did. I had to
yeah,
ask
you're a bit of a detective.
because yeah, that's for a murder mystery. I'm the
Yeah,
detective now. But I had to
yeah,
ask that because I knew, because Jonathan Banks is one of my favorite actors. Breaking
yeah.
Bad, Better Call Saul. And he also did some voice work on F is for Family, just fantastic. And as soon as I remember, I was going through your resume, I said, "Wise Guy." I said, "Oh, Jonathan Banks was in that." I said, "I gotta ask if he worked with Jonathan Banks." I said, "That's insane." And that was like, as you said, way back in the '80s, correct?
Yep. Yep. That was one of my first TV shots. That was, you know.
Wow, that's insane. So, well, what other famous like celebrity encounters do you, or maybe not just encounters, like celebrities who you've worked with or people who went on to become celebrities? Is there one that really stands out to you in particular?
Well, Richard Dean Anderson in MacGyver was really professional guy to work with. You know, he had a great work habit, good with the actors, just had a real bond with us. Even though a lot of us were just like 5 line character work with him, very helpful, real beautiful guy. So, and I did a few MacGyvers with his organization.
Awesome. Wow. Do you ever, because we always talk about wanting to meet all these different people and work with all these different people, like these famous people. Do you ever worry sometimes, and this is something that I've said to some people too, if they like, I have some friends who will say, oh, you should get so and so on the podcast, or try and get so and so. I'm like, well, first of all, it's a try, because not everybody you reach out to is going to say, yeah, I'll do it. Some people will say, no, I don't want to, or I'm too busy. But there's also some people that they ask, they're like, you should try and get so and so on your podcast. I'm like, no, I couldn't, because what if, it could just be the anxiety, like you're just thinking like, oh, like what if they think this, what if they think that, do you ever think that about certain people that you've worked with, like, or want to work with, and think like, I don't know how they be in real life, or people that maybe you did work with that you're like, oh geez, like that guy's kind of an asshole, like that's not at all what I was
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah. Well, I had a good exchange with Mr. T when I worked with him. And a lot of these, I mean, that guy is huge, was huge at the time, and it was just something silly. Like I needed my mother just crazy about Mr. T, and so I wanted him to autograph a picture, which is a dumb thing to do on set. Is to go to an actor, it just is too fan like. It's too much of a fan professionally. But I wanted it for my mother. He was more than gracious. Just a real lovely guy, real street guy. You know. So, and I did feel reserved, but for your mother, you do just about anything. So yeah, I did feel it with him. Other times, there's a whole protocol on set of who you bother. For the main actors, you try to leave them to follow their process and respect their privacy.
No, well, because you'll see so many of them that like people like poor Toby Maguire, he can't drive
Yeah,
anywhere without people jumping in front of him going, Toby, picture, picture, and then
yeah,
he steps out of the car and says, get the fuck out of my way, blah 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 blah. And then people are like, geez, what's his problem? I'm like, okay, well, to be fair, if you were Toby Maguire in that situation, someone was doing that to you, I think you probably do the same thing. So you kind of gotta. Some people don't
yeah.
necessarily think that. Like, it must be hard. Like, I mean, like, how do you see the whole separating people, like fiction from reality, like just learning to accept people for there? How are you with encounters? Do people come to you and say, oh, I've seen you on this, I've seen you on that, and how have you handled it?
I wish,
No,
Frank.
really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not every day, not intrusive, but somebody says they love what I did or something like that. It's a real perk. And if I'm sure if I was at that level of some of the people you're talking about, well, fame is a prison, you know. But so I'm not in prison in any way. If somebody likes what I did, that's all the better for me.
No, well, that's the main thing. So how do you kind of look at things now? As we said, like, you're semi retired. That's how
Yeah,
you kind of described it. Because I mean, you're still doing lots of stuff. You're still busy. But how do you kind of see things now? Like, once you're retired, you kind of are able to do what you want to do, kind of thing, and you're
yeah.
doing this amazing stuff with improv comedy and stuff like that. How do you look at your retirement, and how's it been, really?
Well, yeah, that's a very interesting question. I mean, for me, of course, improv is something I enjoy. I don't see a career out of it, but I just enjoy it. So it's something I really connects me with people. But I still have goals, like what I'm going to be doing with working on a book and doing a 15-minute synopsis of a book. This particular one on trees, but I want to do other ones as well. That's new ground for me to put a production team together to do that. The video of it, clips, experts on there. That's a real good challenge for me. So those are things. That's things that I haven't done, that I'm not quite comfortable with, but that I think I'll enjoy it once I master it.
Yes, and like it's like the world's your oyster basically at that point. You're like, I can do what I want to do,
Yeah,
and the cliche, you don't work a day in your life if you love it kind of thing. Like that's kind of is that kind of how you say things now? You're like, yeah, like I'm basically living the dream kind of thing. I'm not working a day. I haven't worked a day in my life because I love doing what I do. Like, do you always kind of see it that way?
absolutely. In a Miramichi, absolutely. It's a lot of financial pressure is off now from living in Toronto, expensive place to live. And now the Miramichi is beautiful. We've got a kayak, we've got a four-wheeler. So we got a great life in the Miramichi. And I can pretty much do what I want, which includes meeting you, working in improv, doing not podcasts, but doing YouTube videos. It's just great. It's good to have things to look forward to, stay busy.
Yes, and all the connections you made. So you had never come to Miramichi before you moved here recently, eh?
Well, we got married here actually 10 years ago. 10 years, no, 14 years ago, we got married here.
Oh,
And so
okay.
we'd come here every year for Christmas or sometime. We'd always come down here. And her family are typical Miramichiers down here. And it was amazing to me to link up with a Miramichi family. It was so different. The Ontario families, especially farm families where I come from, are much more reserved. But when I got down here, it was just a big party when we got together, with the family. So they've become my family now. I feel real comfortable.
No, well, that's good though. That's good. And congratulations on what do you say, 14 years, 10 years of marriage?
14 years.
14 years. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So, congratulations on that. Congratulations on everything you're doing. Like, this is just awesome, Ray. Like, just to hear, and also just, getting the chance to meet you, getting to see the improv show. I can't wait to see the next one when
Yeah.
it starts in the fall. Is there anything else you're doing that you like to plug, aside from your books that you're working on, or?
Yeah, well, the main thing is I want to get Frankie Corcoran as a student in my next improv class. That's my next goal, Frankie.
I'm so busy, but I,
Yeah,
I
I
still,
know
I
you will.
still, I still want to do lots with you. So I think I'll have to find some way to squeeze it in. Or, well, we got this murder mystery thing we got going on.
Yeah,
So
we're going to be busy on that, Frankie. We're going to
yes,
be busy.
and you guys heard it here first. That is an exclusive that we are
Yep,
dropping.
absolutely. Absolutely. That'll be a great, great show. We'll sell out for sure.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Everybody listen and buy a ticket, even though we have no other information about it right now. But we will have something eventually.
Yeah, we will.
You're
Guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely. But Ray, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate it very much. Best of luck in what you're doing, and let's definitely stay in touch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure, Frankie.
Oh, my pleasure. The pleasure's on mine. Pleasure's on mine. So, guys, we are going to take a short break. We're going to be right back. But until then, this is Frankie and Ray James signing off. Thank you, Ray.
You bet.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Frankie Corcoran. That was me and Ray James. Thank you so much to Ray for coming on today. and just a big fan of what he's been doing here. And super excited to see what happens next with the improv. And you can bet, Ray, I'll stop by and visit you guys during your next workshop session. So can't wait for it. And guys, September 17th is when they start up again. So just stay tuned on Facebook. Look up Ray James Improv Comedy for the Terrified, and you'll be able to find out how to get involved. So. And also, I realized I forgot to mention off the top of the show. Thank you to everyone who came out. We're excited to host the Kids Fun Center at the Rock and Roll Festival this past weekend. And thank you to everyone for coming on out, and just. It was a great time. The weather held out really, really good, and just thanks to everyone for coming out. Everybody involved as well too. Tiffany Gallivan, Michelle Lilly. Fun was had by all, so it was a great time. And so, anyways, yeah. So I just realized, I said, oh shoot, I forgot to mention that off the top of the show, but might as well, better late than never. So, anyways, moving on to the show today. This segment was a long time coming, and it's crazy that I'm finally saying this now. Deadpool and Wolverine. It's time to review it. I'm gonna do a non-spoilery one right here, because everything about this movie, you do not want this movie to get spoiled. So basically, how I always do my reviews, I talk about the pros, I talk about the cons, I give my verdict with a score out of 10. So yeah, man, holy crap. It's just crazy that we're finally here. I still remember it was funny being in the theater, and I sat in the exact same seat. It might have been like roughly the same seat when I watched Logan in the movie theaters. And it was just so crazy just how it really felt like deja vu. It really, really did feel like deja vu. So yeah, it was just insane that now, 7 years later, here we are watching Hugh Jackman back on screen as Wolverine. And I mean, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the trailers. I would classify this as a spoiler, but they put it in one of the trailers, so it's not really, I guess. But X-23, seeing her come back after Logan was awesome. So just seeing all that was just like deja vu. It was just insane that I was actually watching it, and it feels like forever now since we did a podcast. I think it was me, Sean, Doucette, and Kyle Easty were talking about the recent announcement that Hugh Jackman is back as Wolverine for Deadpool 3. And we had, between the writer's strike and just, delays out the wazoo, here we are. Just saw the movie, so what are my thoughts on it? So, like I said, start with the pros, cons, and then give my verdict. So, first pro I gotta give is the script was great. Like the writing in this one was absolutely fantastic, and it's you feel a real something about the Deadpool movies as a whole. You really feel it's a real auteur driven series. I mean, I don't think Ryan Reynolds had anything to do with the writing of the first two ones. Maybe the second one. I think he might have been involved in the second one. But this one here, I know for sure he was involved with the writing process for Deadpool and Wolverine. So you feel a real sense of there's something about it when you know that there's so much care, and the people who are starring in the movie are also so involved in the creative process of it. It really feels like it through the screen, and I know that was their biggest thing, because Ryan Reynolds was saying in interviews if they were gonna bring Hugh Jackman's Wolverine back, they got to make sure that they nail it, and I think they did. And really, a huge kudos to the writers of this movie. So, of course, Ryan Reynolds was a writer. Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, and Sean Levi. Sean Levi also directed the movie and did a fantastic job. It was really, really great. Oh, by the way, I just noticed here, at the time of this recording, it's already made $438 million, which is insane. So, is it going to hit $1 billion? Yeah, it's going to hit $1 billion. There's no doubt about that, especially with how good this friggin' movie is. It's going to hit $1 billion. And so, so first pro is the script. The script was absolutely fantastic. The writing was great, and that's the key, especially in these types of movies where there's so much on the line. Next one is the humor was perfect. The humor was like, there were moments where I was literally laughing out loud in the movie theater, and I don't do that too often. That's the thing. I never normally, if I'm laughing, like watching a comedy, like, I laugh. I don't try to like belly laugh. But this one here, I was laughing out loud during this one. This one was so funny. And hands down, like the funniest performance Ryan Reynolds has given as Deadpool, I think. I mean, not just Ryan Reynolds, but just everybody all around. Like when it came to the performances, and just the humor side of things, like it was hilarious. That's all I'll say. I don't want to give anything away really, because I'm trying to keep this spoiler free because it just came out. So this is basically me trying to convince all of you guys to go watch the movie if you haven't seen it already. But you will get a good sense of like the humor and stuff like that just from the trailers. But even the trailers hides a lot of the funniest lines and stuff. So just be prepared to belly laugh. I don't normally belly laugh in movie theaters, but I was during this one. It was so good. Next one was the emotion. This one had great emotion into it too, and I got the sense of it in the final trailer. I knew immediately when it was announced that X-23 was coming back. And that scene of her and Logan at the campfire was absolutely just heartbreaking. And that scene was great, by the way, too. And the emotion all around, it was great. Like that's the thing with some of these Marvel movies, like Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy. I love this for too. The emotion is always there. It's always just bang on. So it's bang on, but it perfectly balances the humor and the emotion. Like 1 second you're laughing out loud, next second you're like, holy crap, you're actually like on the verge of tears, which is great. If you're able to do both, that's perfect. And this one here did that very, very well. So the emotion was great. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman together. I think I can easily say, I mean, it's very, very hard to say that this is Hugh Jackman's best performance as Wolverine, because he's had how many movies, over the span of 20 some years. So this, it's fantastic. This is definitely Ryan Reynolds' best performance as Deadpool, hands down. But the two of them together, especially their chemistry, was absolutely frigging phenomenal. It was so good. We all knew that, because we said, we're like, if you're gonna bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, it's got to be for something good. And this was well worth it. This was so well worth it. Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds were fantastic, and the performances all around. The actress who played Cassandra Nova, Emma Corrin, she was amazing in this one. She was so good. She was a fantastic villain, and who else was there? There was the guy from Peter, the salesman guy. He was fantastic. He's not in the movie a whole lot, but the moments he is in it, he's so good. Just hilarious. And the guy who plays Mr. Paradox was fantastic as well too. And X-23 as well too was fantastic. I can't remember the actress's name, the girl who plays her. It's just crazy to see how far she's come after Logan, where she was literally friggin' 10 years old at that, if even. And now she's all grown up, so it's crazy to see. But yeah, the performances all around were perfect. The cameos. Now, you guys are probably going to hear that there's lots of cameos. I can't say too much about this because I don't want to spoil anything, but there were cameos in this that not even the most hardcore Marvel fans could have expected. That's all I'm going to say. So just prepare yourselves for some wild ass cameos. It's crazy. So, but they were handled with care. So they were handled in a way where it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like, oh, they're just throwing them in there because they know it's gonna, people are just gonna eat this up. It's not gonna serve any narrative purpose, but who cares? People are gonna love it just because they're there. It wasn't like that at all. It actually felt right. It felt natural to have them in there like that, especially for a Deadpool movie. Some of them, I will say, they might have been, you could tell that some of them might have been for comedic effect, but they ended up, even though they were for comedic effect, and this is a Deadpool movie, so it's okay, you can let it pass. But even when it was for comedic effect, it still felt so natural. So, when you have so many crazy cameos and they're handled with care, that's the right type of cameo. So that's all I'm going to say about the cameos, because you guys will just have to watch the movie. Those of you guys who have seen it know what I'm talking about. But overall, so I'm here. I'm listing off all the pros, everything about it. And then I tried to come up with some cons. And the cons are, I couldn't find any cons. I literally could not find a single thing wrong with this movie. Maybe on replay value, I might find something and I'm like, okay, maybe they could have done that better. But really, like, I honestly could not find anything wrong with Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, I knew that it was going to be good. There may have been some skepticism going into it, maybe a little bit. I mean, I knew because Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were so involved that they were going to handle Wolverine's return with care. But, man, they exceeded my expectations. They really, really did. And so when I'm trying to go through, I'm like, okay, what things didn't work about the movie? Everything worked about this movie. If I'm being honest, everything worked about this movie. And that's a damn good thing. Like, if you're like desperately grasping something, I mean, could I nitpick? Absolutely. I could grab something and go, oh, maybe they could have done that better. They could have done that better. But that would just be me clearly nitpicking just so I can add a con on here. But I can't do that because everything was just, they literally, there was no better way you could have done a Deadpool and Wolverine, like, buddy road movie. Like, this was literally the perfect way to do it. And, yeah, there was absolutely nothing wrong with this movie. So, I think this is probably the first 10 I'm going to give to any movie that I've reviewed on this podcast. Normally my other movies that I've reviewed, no matter how good they are, I'll, might go to like a 9.5 or 9.8 or whatever. But this one here is just a perfect 10. I got to give this a perfect 10. And in terms of comic book movies, I don't think I've ever really given a 10. I think the only 10 I've given was Winter Soldier. I think that movie's perfect. I don't see anything wrong with Winter Soldier. Even 10 years later, it still holds up. And and Deadpool and Wolverine is just like that. I'm literally struggling to find one thing wrong with it without even nitpicking. And even me trying to nitpick, that's just me grasping at straws. I'm like, okay, I got to add a con in here, but I can't do that. This was a perfect movie. It perfectly encapsulated that you can have, dead characters come back if it's handled correctly. You gave, they brought Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, but they didn't ruin Logan at all, which was great. Because I think that was all of our biggest fears was, okay, if you're going to bring back Wolverine, you got to make sure you don't, ruin the legacy of Logan. Because that's a freaking perfect comic book movie right there. And now, that's one thing too. I stated that I don't think it's better than Logan. I think Logan is the better movie, but man, it's damn close. It was damn close. This is hands down the best Deadpool movie of all of them. If I had to rank the Deadpool movies, I'd rank this one, the first one, and the second one. And, oh, wow. Like, just, literally, I'm literally grasping at straws, trying to find a con, and there's none. So I'm just going to give it a perfect 10. Call me nice, call me whatever. Maybe I'm just in a happy mood because I just saw it. And but who knows, maybe it'll change in 10 years. I say that because I gave Captain America the Winter Soldier, I said that's a 10 out of 10, and 10 years later it's still a 10 out of 10. So I think in 10 years, in 2034, Deadpool and Wolverine still going to be a 10 out of 10. I think so. But anyways, guys, I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts. Was Deadpool and Wolverine worth the wait? Did they handle it with care? Let me know what you guys think, and how would you rank it amongst all the other Deadpool and Wolverine movies. So definitely, guys, be sure to let me know what you think or thought about Deadpool and Wolverine. And if you haven't seen it, please be sure to go see it ASAP. I went to go see it as soon as possible. I couldn't even wait for certain people to come with me because I said I got to see it before I get spoiled, and I'm glad I did. So everybody be sure to check out the movie, and be sure to let me know your thoughts on that. And speaking of, handling cameos and stuff like that, and deceased returning characters in an appropriate way, that kind of bleeds into our last discussion topic today, which is San Diego Comic-Con, of course, just happened, and we got some announcements. I wanted to talk about some of the others, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, there's nothing really to talk about aside from, in terms of like the other stuff. We got 2 trailers for Walking Dead, Dead City and Daryl Dixon, which the 2 trailers look great. I can't wait to see Dead City season 2 and Daryl Dixon season 2. They just announced season 3 of Daryl Dixon is confirmed as well too. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do with that. They're moving it to Spain as well. And Dead City season 2 looks terrific as well. As we got like a minute teaser for it, and then Daryl Dixon we got a full trailer because that's coming out in a couple months, and Dead City's not coming out till next year. So, but anyways, I'm super stoked to see all the new Walking Dead stuff. We haven't gotten any news about The Ones Who Live season 2. I don't think there's going to be a season 2. People are holding out hope. It's saying, oh, they might announce it. I'm like, no, it was just a mini series. I don't think there's nothing more to come of it. But so moving on to the big announcement at San Diego Comic-Con, the thing that kind of trumps everything is probably hands down the biggest shock of anything they could have announced at Comic-Con this year. Like literally nobody could have predicted this. I really don't think anybody could have predicted this. So we find out that, so of course we had the Kang Dynasty, Avengers Kang Dynasty was going to be the next Avengers movie, Avengers 5. That didn't end up going through because of the controversy with Jonathan Majors. They fired him. There were talks that they were going to replace him with Coleman Domingo or Giancarlo Esposito, which I would have been fine with because they're both great actors. So, and just use a Kang variant. They didn't go through with it, and they're now doing Avengers Doomsday, which is, great choice. If you're going to, have a big villain like that, Doctor Doom's a great choice for that. And so they announced who is going to be playing Doomsday, and it's Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark himself, is coming back to the MCU. And this was literally something. I said this after walking out of the movie theater, and then probably about an hour later after I got home, that's when the announcement came out about Doctor Doom. So... It's crazy. I was literally just saying so I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and I said, okay, Deadpool and Wolverine now is proof that if you want to bring back Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans as Captain America and Iron Man, if it's handled right, like they did with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, then yeah, I think he'll be back. But in no way was I expecting, yes, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, but he's not going to playing Tony Stark. He's going to be playing Doctor Doom, which is... Now, I'm torn on it. On one hand, I'm like, okay, Robert Downey Jr. is a terrific actor. If there was a villain of Oppenheimer, it would be him, and he won an Oscar for that, which was very, very well deserved. I said it as soon as I walked out of Oppenheimer. I said, the Oscar's his. But... I don't know. To me, it seems so desperate. I think what they're doing, I think they're going to have it be like a Tony Stark variant kind of thing that's evil now. I really think that's what they're going to do. But I think to me, it just seems so desperate. That's just the way I see it. And I know there's not many people who are saying, this is a bad idea. This is a great idea. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back. And I'm like, yes, it's great that he's coming back to the MCU, but... I just don't see why would you cast him as Doctor Doom. Like, okay, I'm not saying he won't do a good job, but I'm just saying of all actors that you could have put in that role, maybe just bring him back as Iron Man and have Iron Man, the same deal like we did with Wolverine where we have a different variant from a different universe. Why not just do that with Iron Man and bring him back that way instead of having him be a villain? I don't know. I really don't know what to think about it. I might warm up to it eventually because I have been proved wrong before about a lot of things. But as it currently stands right now, I am not a fan. I really am not a fan. To me, it just seems so desperate. That's what it seems like. That they maybe they're like, okay, we don't want to bring him back as Iron Man or Tony Stark, so let's just have him come back as Doctor Doom, and we'll set it up as some kind of variant, evil Tony Stark variant or something like that, who went crazy. I don't know. Maybe they won't even have him be a Tony Stark variant. Maybe he's just going to be just Doctor Doom, no variants, and it's just Robert Downey Jr. That's all. Maybe that'll be the case too. But if that's the case, you were better off just casting somebody else. I mean, someone brought up Cillian Murphy. I think Cillian Murphy could have done a good job. I think really anybody else. Someone threw around Leonardo DiCaprio at one point. I think that'd be a great idea. Who else? Like, there's so many other people who could have done it. Not saying that Robert Downey Jr. is a bad choice. Like, that's one thing people might take out of context and say, oh, you're saying he's going to do a terrible job. No, he'll do a great job, but he's Tony Stark. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, like, to me, it's weird. To me, it just seems so desperate. And it's funny. I said, okay, because after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, I was in the mindset that, okay, I think Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. will be back. But in no way did I think this is how he was going to come back. I didn't think he was going to come back as just not Iron Man, but he's going to come back as Doctor Doom. To me, it just... Yeah, I don't know. I'm torn on it. I really am torn on it. I might warm up to it later. But right now, I don't know where I stand on it. I'm trying to put my words together. Like, I'm just trying to think about how it is, because, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Like, I'll give my thoughts on it as we get closer to it, and maybe as more info comes out. But to me, I just think it's desperation. They just desperately want to bring all this attraction back to the MCU. And in doing that, they said, if we bring back Robert Downey Jr., this is going to be yeah, no. So that's how I see it. I think it's good that he's coming back. I just don't think, why would you put him as Doctor Doom? I don't know. To me, it's stupid. That's just my opinion anyway. I love to hear what everybody else thinks on that. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. So before I ramble on anymore, I should probably just end this podcast right now. So, yeah, thank you guys for listening to the show today. I want to thank my guest, Ray James, for coming on. Guys, stay up to date with all of his stuff on Facebook, where how you can sign up for his next comedy workshop, the Improv Comedy for the Terrified. And get your tickets as well, too, for Music from Elsewhere, a musical showcase of Leandra Gold and Awan Singh Cabeza. I can't wait to put that on for them. It's going to be great. And get your tickets now. We got some sold already. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much. And that's August 24th, by the way, as well. Just I better make sure to put that date in there. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys, on Deadpool and Wolverine. Let me know your thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. officially returning to the MCU, but not as Iron Man, which is, it is what it is, I guess. Yeah, but, in the meantime, guys, we'll see you guys next week. Just enjoy the rest of your summer. This is the last episode of July. It's also the first episode, by the way, of me being 25. So this is a nice new, hopefully I'm still doing this podcast, in 50 years from now, or 25 years from now, sorry, I should say. In 50 years, I'll be 75, but whatever. Thank you guys for listening to the show today. It was a blast. Until next time, this is Franky signing off. Have a great week, guys, and enjoy the heat and all that stuff.